Thank you, Lawrence. I swear, I always love the music that we play when we when we get started. It's like my moment to jam. And so I want to just recognize what song we just played. It's called "Be Optimistic" by Sounds Blackness. Um, so welcome everyone to our third year of Heritage and Awareness Month's events and our first for 2025. Each year we select a theme that functions as our kind of overarching umbrella around the topics and the speakers that we pick. This year our theme is alliance, advocacy, and allyship. Many of our clients, as we all know, here are nonprofits who truly live the mission of providing for those who are unseen or who have an unmet need in their community. So in selecting this year's theme, we decided that we were also going to spotlight the organizations Mutual of America works with, so you could hear their stories and the impact of their work, which in turn is why we all work. So I'm going to just encourage everyone to join us for all the sessions, which I know you'll do anyway, because it'll give us a chance to really learn about who our clients are and hear their individual stories. This month, for Black History Month, I am excited to kick off our first conversation with Gregory Scott, who was introduced to us by Earl Jones. Gregory, I'm going to read your bio.
Okay.
Gregory Scott is a dynamic and accomplished leader with extensive experience in business, nonprofit management, and community development. He has dedicated his career to driving positive change, promoting social justice, and improving the lives of underserved populations. Gregory is president and CEO of the Community Action Partnership of Orange County, California, focusing on combating poverty, promoting racial and economic equity, strengthening families, education, financial stability, and community and economic development. Previously, he led New Directions for Veterans in the Weingart Center. Recognized for his leadership, he has received numerous awards, including the Joining Forces Award from former First Lady Michelle Obama and Dr. Jill Biden. Gregory holds degrees from William Patterson University and Southern New Hampshire University and has completed executive programs at Stanford University. He actively serves on many boards and continues to drive positive change and impact and empowers communities. And then what's not on your bio, but I read, is that you went to the famous high school that was featured in the movie Lean on Me. Um,
Yes.
and although you're in California, you are an East Coaster and a New Jersey native.
By from the bone.
There you
From
go, through and through. So, I thank you for agreeing to speak with us. I actually acknowledge that you're very busy generally, and then I know today you're just coming from some board meetings. But I really do think this series that we do is a really wonderful opportunity to spotlight people who are working with those who are unseen, who have unmet needs, which is really the core of our organization. And so I love that we can use these heritage and awareness series to shine light on the work, why we do the work that we do.
Mhm.
Um, I've read your bio, but we always want to hear who you are behind your bio. And I know you haven't always been in nonprofit. So I'm wondering maybe if we could just start with what didn't I say, and maybe share a little bit about your journey to where you are today.
Awesome. Great question. Well, Tara, thank you so much for having me. And I know Earl Jones is in the background, and I appreciate him making the recommendation and reaching out. I'm excited about it because I think that the theme of alliance and advocacy and allyship, if there ever was a time that we needed all three of those things, I think, now is that time. So whoever came up with the theme or the group of people or the team that came up with the theme,
Group of us.
yeah, so you
Actually,
were
I will say for everyone that's listening, it actually, just because I do want to give a proper shout out where give acknowledgement where acknowledgement is due. So let me just say this. So the team came up with some of that, And
Yeah.
then when I ran this by Stephen Rich, our chairman and CEO and president, and kind of said, "Are we going to continue with this series? And here's what I think. Here's what I think we want to call it." He was the one that said, "Why don't you add alliances to it?" Which really is a nod to the work that we do. So it was a team of us and also our CEO who came up with it.
Well, kudos to Steve and the CEO, because I think it's, especially during this time, it's really important. Allyship is important. It's all, if I go down the list. So I just want to thank you for the partnership. I think we as an organization, although I serve on the National Board of Community Action Partnership, you guys have been a sponsor for many, many years. But as an organization, you guys have been during our retirement for our organization here in Orange County for the last 5 or 6 years, met at a conference, had me at hello, and been a partner ever since. So certainly want to appreciate the partnership that we have with Mutual. On some level, when people ask me that question, who am I beyond my bio, I always trip over the words because, for one, I think I'm always evolving and changing and all that good stuff. But I always start out by saying I am a proud son of Ella and Joseph Scott. My mom is one of 18 children coming out of North Carolina, 4 sets of twins. I have a pretty big family. As you alluded to earlier, born and raised in Paterson, New Jersey, in the housing projects of New Jersey. I moved from Jersey to Boston to California. Been in California for the last 24 years. I am a father of 3, and I think a really cool grandfather of 5 at the same time.
Probably a cooler grandfather than you were a father, for sure.
100%, and they hate it,
So.
but that's what it is.
I'm sure.
That's what it is. I am a prostate cancer survivor. I am fascinated by learning and fascinated by impacting people's lives. I'm a Yankee fan. I'm a Knick fan. My journey started out being a substitute teacher at the very elementary school that I went to. So the principal was still there. The teachers I had were still there. I still lived in that community. And because I still lived there, the students, I would still see them when I was still playing ball then. When I would go home and still play basketball, I knew their parents. I got into their lives. It wasn't a surprise if they showed up and I'm sitting in their living room. That probably really put me on my journey of I wanted to teach and I wanted to make an impact. But I didn't necessarily want to do it in the classroom because I thought that there was a bigger world out there where I can really make an impact. And I think that started me on my journey of really getting into the nonprofit sector, and was able to kind of grow and graduate into that to running 3 major organizations over the last 20 something years. So in a nutshell, that's who I am.
Yes. And also shout out to Paterson. Over COVID, when I needed some place to go to be outside, I snuck over to the waterfall and stood at the waterfall. Second time I'd ever been there. And so for people who are local, Paterson is the home of, or not the home of, but I guess not the birthplace, but the place where Alexander Hamilton grew up. His birthplace was in the Caribbean. And there is it rivals Niagara Falls, the beautiful waterfall that's in Paterson. It was Great Kills, is it called? I can't remember the name of it.
Great Falls.
Great Falls.
Yes. Yeah, Great Falls.
So the mission of the Community Partnership of Orange County is we seek to end and prevent poverty by stabilizing, sustaining, and empowering people with resources when they need them. By forging strategic partnerships, we form a powerful force in our community. I'm wondering if you could just tell our listeners here about the work that you all do and how you engage your community, and then how is your work intended to sustain itself?
Awesome, great question. And whenever I'm trying to explain, and I do it a lot when I'm explaining the work that we do both nationally and locally, is very dynamic in terms of the work that we do. This year, we're celebrating our 60th anniversary. So we turned 60 this year. So we're very excited about that. But I always put the work that we do probably in 4 domains, so to speak. One is around economic mobility and innovation. where we try to help move people towards financial independence through workforce development, through financial empowerment programs, through entrepreneurship. So that's one domain. Our second domain is around family and youth empowerment, where we have a whole family approach, but we support families through education, through childcare resources, through youth mentorship, and breaking the cycle of poverty. So youth leadership development is really a big piece of that, and also believing education is a pathway out of poverty.
Sure.
That third domain is around health and community resilience, where we are addressing food insecurity. So we have one of the biggest food banks in the region called the Orange County Food Bank, and so where we're really addressing hunger and food insecurity. We're providing healthcare services and promoting overall well-being when it comes to healthcare and helping people navigate the healthcare system. And then that fourth domain is, in order for us to do that, we have to have our underpinning. And our underpinning is around organizational capacity and brand awareness. And so we try to have leadership development is a really big part of what we do. Strong partnerships is a really big part of what we do. And then try to be really innovative when it comes to fundraising. And so our work has been deeply, when it comes to community engagement, deeply engaged in the community. So the name Community Action Partnership, the partnership piece of it, is not just part of our name, but is a part of our everyday being when we are partnering with local businesses, government agencies, grassroots organizations. Currently, we are leading one effort that I like to highlight. It's called the Orange County Black Solidarity Network, where we get a chance to partner with the Orange County Community Foundation and several other Black-led organizations as we are addressing Black hate in the region. When people think about Orange County, just kind of give an example of community engagement. Orange County is only 2% Black, but is high double digits when it comes to the percentage of hate crimes within the county. 2% Black, high double digits when it comes to hate crimes that are reported within the county. And so we are deeply engaged in that work. So leadership development training, civic engagement training is a big piece of that level of community. And then we try to, when you ask the question about sustainability and impact, we're like any other nonprofit that we are, in the business of people, where we are always looking at diverse funding opportunities along with our partnerships. And that includes government funding, that includes corporate sponsorships, individual donors. So we have a plethora of various partnerships that we have that helps us sustain. And I'll end it by saying, our work is more than just kind of being a safety net. We want to really be a launching pad for economic mobility and self-sufficiency to really help people break the cycle of poverty within 2 generations.
I mean, I have to imagine that proud that it's 60 years, but the goal is to ultimately not need you anymore, right?
100%. And I say this to my board, and I say it out loud to people. If I just look at COVID, for instance, the year before COVID in 2019, when I think of just food, we did 25 million pounds of food. We bragged about that was the highest amount of food we've ever done in our history. In COVID, we tripled that number. And then the year after COVID, we were right around 50 million in terms of poundage of food. And on one level, it's great that I'm able to stand up in front of any group and say, we did this.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the day where I can say, we did 5 million pounds of food because it wasn't needed. And so I want to work myself out of a job because we want to make so much of an impact as relates to poverty that the level we're doing is not needed. That's not true today. I may not see it in my lifetime, but that's the goal.
Yeah. Well, let's actually double down a little bit on what you talked about around funding. I know you just came out of board meeting, and the reality is I saw on your board you have multiple partnerships, both public and private partnership. I'm wondering if you could share with our organization um, how how you're how you think about your funding sources and um, given some of the challenges that we know are going on with federal funding or lack thereof, the potential lack thereof. Can you talk about any challenges that you're having around securing support moving forward? It might just, I think we have an opportunity here to give a face, your client's face, your employee's face, right?
Yeah.
To some of the contextual moment that we're in right now.
Yeah. Great question, and thank you for asking that question specifically. It's a major concern, Tara, because we get a little over 80% of our funding from the government. So whether it's directly federal funding or whether it's state funding that's passed through, or whether it's county funding, so over 80% of our funding comes through the government. And so we have whether it's through commodities with our food bank and other government resources, whether it's through, we have an energy program where we help people weatherize their homes or either help pay their utility. We provide utility assistance and a plethora of other programs that are funded by the government. So you can imagine when we woke up that morning to the executive orders, we happened to be at one of our national
I
conferences.
wrote Earl that when it came out,
Yes.
I was sitting at a conference and I wrote Earl and I was like, oh my gosh. And he
Yes.
said he was at your conference.
Yep. It was that's exact conference. We happened to be having a board meeting that morning, a national board meeting. So we all are freaking out as we are hearing this news. It's still fresh, it's still new, and we have 700 people who are coming, who are starting to show up. And so it was important for us to get our message together on what we wanted to say. We have two other national partners that we work with, Cap Law and the National Community Action Foundation, which does a lot of the advocacy for us. And so it's important for us all to get together. In terms of so that was one aspect of it. In terms of the impact it has, as I've been sharing with my board and sharing with everybody, I am trying, as a leader, it's a weight. I'm trying not to overreact, but also don't want to underreact. It's important that I deal with facts versus any assumptions and all of that, because I have 150 staff members. We serve thousands of people every single day, and so all that's important. So it's a great concern going forward. The fear is right.
80%, what you can't, what can you
Yeah.
do on 20%?
Not much. It would, for if we were to lose all of our funding, it would really cripple not just my organization, but our entire network would be crippled by that. We do try to diversify our funding by doing more private fundraising and having more corporate partners. We're doing advocacy. We are talking to our representatives about the impact of these funds go away, what that impact would be for their constituents. We are staying on top of it politically, not being inundated by so much news, but knowing enough to know what's happening so that we can make appropriate decisions going forward. And so we're trying to guard. If funding does get taken away, that means that less services to the community, but it also means a reduction in staff and all of that. And as a leader who's getting very minimal sleep, all those things are certainly a concern. And so if you can imagine people who are already living in poverty, already on the fence, and for any of these services to be taken away, it drives them backwards versus forward. And so that's a big concern in terms of the people that we serve and the impact it's going to have on the community.
Yeah, I do think, it's really important to just put a face with this. And so thank you. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I don't even know what else to say. So thank you. And I'm hoping that, I'm hopeful that that things won't change for you a lot.
Appreciate
Um,
it. Yeah.
yeah. That's all I'll say, or else I'll just cry. So let's talk about another question here. So when we were preparing for this webinar, we talked a little bit about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and you said at the time that DEI isn't sprinkled on the work that you do; it's baked into what you do. So I'm wondering if you can elaborate on how that principle is reflected in your programs and your initiatives that you run. How do you think about that?
Yeah, yeah, especially during this time, I've actually given it probably, even more thought as I'm sharing with other colleagues, because this whole fear of DEI in general, um, um, over the last 60 days or so has created a lot of fear in a lot of corporate companies and a lot of nonprofit organizations where people are scrubbing their website to make sure there's nothing that is promoting DI in any way. And for me, it doesn't change any of the work that I do. It's because everything we do has a DI lens. And for me, when we talk about when we talk about inclusion, is about not having anyone having any preferential treatment. Is about how do we get everybody to the table? How do we serve the entire community so that nobody's left out and living in poverty? And before I kind of dive more into that, I think for me it's about principles. I start with the leadership principle. I'm a big John Maxwell fan. And John talks oftentimes about leadership is simply influence. It's nothing more, it's nothing less. I think that definition aligns with the work that we do. Is having influence over decision makers, is adding value to others. If we're going to add value in terms of the work that we do, it has to have a lens of inclusion. If we're going to develop other leaders and develop these young people as leaders and develop other leaders, it has to have a value system of inclusion. If we're going to have vision and so I can go down a list of why leadership is important, why inclusion is important, and why it makes us better as a community. It's about resilience. It's about faith. It's about what Martin Luther King talked about, that all men are created equal. And again, it's baked into the work that we do, and ensuring that there's equity and that it's a fair process for everybody. So it has to be baked into all aspects of our work, whether it's leadership and in governance. We're making decisions to make sure that we are not leaving anybody out in big decisions that we're making. We are having strategic partnerships with other groups in the community to make sure that those voices are heard at the table. Is having equity when it comes to hiring and workforce development. So it's not just a value system, or it's not just something that we just throw on the website or that we sprinkle on top. It's baked into the work that we do. It's part of our DNA. That is second nature in terms of how we go about our work. And so I think when I made that statement, that's kind of it's a commitment to action and influence how we serve, who we partner with, how we advocate for systematic. So yeah, I could talk all day about it. So
You can, except we only have you till 3 o'clock. So you talk if you want, but your assistant said that we needed to give you back at 3 o'clock. I always love a story or people's stories, and I'm wondering, you talked about in the beginning around feeling like you could do more in the community, but you're tied to the community and having a bigger purpose. And I was wondering maybe if you could share with our group some either lessons that you've learned along the way that's shaped your approach to being a leader. You talked about John Maxwell, or a story that kind of required you to think about who you wanted to be as a leader, or had you pivot your thoughts around leadership. I was wondering if you could share that with us.
It's probably been, several things at different parts of my life on a professional level.
Okay.
So there's been several times where I've had to pivot. Um, something caused me to pivot. Sometimes it was personal. Sometimes it was through whatever was happening professionally. So I've walked through organizations where they were dealing with a deficit, and here I am, all excited about this new opportunity, and there's a major deficit. I walk into a problem
Hmm.
and being able to solve that problem. And I've had a few instances like that where um, I've always left something better than, and I think for me, it's having that lived experience. It's uh, okay. Is that better?
This is
Yeah.
better, yes.
Okay.
All right, so everyone will just have to remember what you look like until we can get secure line back. See, we're just starting to say there have been several times where you've had to pivot. You talked about, we heard you say a little bit about walking into organizations where there was a deficit and needing to, I think, figure out a plan as to where you were going to go. It sounds like that's a bit of what we were hearing you say. Actually, and while you're thinking of your, while we just connect you back, I want to just remind everyone, if you have any questions, feel free to just jot them in the Q&A box while Gregory's answering that question. So, Greg, let's turn it back over to you.
Yeah. So if I was to say that there were lessons, I think for me, understanding service, and
Mm.
service is rooted in dignity and empowerment. People just don't need handouts. They need pathways to economic mobility and self-sufficiency. They need a plan. They need a strategy. And I think that has really shaped my work and how I think about the work. Going back to something we said earlier, it's one thing to say we gave out 70 million pounds of food, and that's great. Or we served a certain number of people, and that's great. But it's really about we're making so much impact that we're reducing those numbers of people who are in need. How I think about my work is very rooted in I want to solve the problem. I want to systematically solve the problem. So system change requires advocacy. Collaboration is key to also, I think, to great impact. I think resilience and being able to adapt to changing environments is a non-negotiable. I shared with my leaders yesterday. I said we are in two modes at one time. One mode, we have a crisis because it is a crisis in terms of potentially losing federal funding and what that means for us. On the other level, we have to adapt and we have to implore change management principles all at the same time because we may never go back to normal again. And so how do we really integrate change management while we're also dealing with a crisis? And ultimately, as a leader, you want to always lead with authentic leadership. And that's how change happens. And so I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but those are kind of the thoughts that kind of ran through my head when you asked.
No, it does. I one of the leadership uh, one of the organizations that I've worked with around leadership talked about the quality of admired leaders. And this particular organization has done research all around the world around the qualities of admired leaders. And one of the things that they say, it really comes down to really kind of two things. People who are admired leaders are results driven.
Yeah.
And they have followership, and it's kind of just one without the other doesn't work, but the two together do work. So you talked about walking into a place where there's a deficit. You talked about understanding the root cause. Um, how do you think about your approach when you're walking into a situation where there's a deficit? I'm assuming you have to look beyond the idea of correlation equals causation because it does not always.
Yeah.
What's the methodology that you use as you're thinking through driving change or change management? And I'm assuming it's different for every instance, but do you have kind of some advice for our employees around the way you think about the way forward?
Yeah, I think in great question. I think in all those situations, I start by listening, being a great listener, being an active listener. Of course, you want to listen to what has happened, but you also want them. I tell people all the time, I am a C student. I am I'm not as smart as I pretend to be. I'm not smart by myself.
Mm,
I don't have all the answers by myself. But collectively, we do have all the answers.
mm,
My job is to create the right environment for magic to happen. Create the right environment so magic can happen. So because when people feel empowered and they feel like their voice is being heard, and they feel like you're really listening to them, and that you are implementing some of those things that they are projecting, great things come from that. Now you have the right foundation where you can really create, whether it's problem solving, whether it's when you really create innovation is what I want to say.
mm.
That's where witty ideas come from, and innovations come from when you create the right environment for change to happen and for magic to happen. So I think it starts there, and then from there, then you can really begin to put together a strategy on how you want to move forward.
Yeah, not to kind of go right back around, but I mean, I think that's when you talk about the fact that DEI is not sprinkled on top, that it's baked in, because in order for magic to happen, in order for people to feel comfortable to put their ideas, you have to have the right group of multiple viewpoints and multiple perspectives sitting at the table so that all of those things together lead to the idea of inclusion, right?
Yep.
The idea of being able to create magic.
Yep. And it's not about any group having any preference or treatment. It's not about choosing one group over the other. It's about all of us coming together, and putting one big brain together. One
Right.
big brain together.
I love it. So we don't have any questions yet, but I'm going to ask Tish to join because Tish, wait, I lied. There is a question now. But I'm going to have Tish join so that she can help to facilitate the question that we have. And then she always has a humdinger up her sleeve. So I'm sure she's going to come up with something else.
I might disappoint you this time, Tara. I'm not
Never.
but thank you again, Gregory. Thank you both, actually. So the question that just came in: what books have been helpful and/or foundational to your leadership perspective, personality, and stokes your passion even in challenging times? I think that's great.
Wow, great question. My faith. Yeah, I think it's a fundamental part of who I am. I was born and raised in the church, and that's always been with me, no matter what. And so even when I feel stuck, or I feel like, and there are moments as leaders where we hate to admit it as leaders, but it's true. There are moments when I just don't know what to do. Period. And there are questions that come where I really have to say I don't know. And as leaders, we part of what drives our work is we have a little bit of an ego, because that's right, a little bit of personality that drives our work. But we can't allow that ego to become arrogance, where you're not authentic and you're not genuine. So I think for me, it's been my faith. It's been growing up in the church, and those principles being ingrained into who I am today. I wouldn't be who I am today and being able to fight the fights I've had to fight without faith.
You see my head nodding. At first, I want to make mention of something that I don't often do. We try to keep our comments coming from the Q&A anonymous, but I can't, and I'm sorry, but it was Earl. I just realized after the fact that asked that question, so I'm surprised that it was a great one, but Earl, I had to call you out. But I was also nodding in acknowledgement about being rooted in faith. Resonates with me as well, but just from my viewpoint anyway, and I think others would agree, the ability as a leader, an effective, a strong leader, to say, I don't know, I always view that as a very solid answer, right? But you're also able to be resourceful and figure out, how to navigate whatever the circumstances and find the right solutions and pull together. So I just wanted to comment on that. I don't see any more questions. I don't want to take up a lot of time. But I did not have any of my own. I think Tara covered so many.
Okay, I have another in my back pocket.
Sure.
And also, I don't know if you can see them, Gregory, but we on the side of the WebEx, we have a few hearts
I see that.
and
Yes.
trumpets that are going off. So you got a few hearts
Yes.
and trumpets as we go. Right, well, Tish, you can feel free to stay, or you can
Oh,
feel free to go back.
I am proud to just exit and give you both the floor again. Thank you.
Thanks, Tish. Thank you.
Welcome. Thanks. Anita.
So I'm wondering if you can share for us any stories of, I told you I like stories, any
Yeah, yeah.
stories of resilience and hope that have emerged from your work. So you've done this for quite a long time. You're still getting thumbs up here. You've done this for quite a long time. Tell us about a success story or a composite of success stories that you can speak of.
Another great question. I love stories too, and I often love to tell them. I think the thing that came to mind as I was preparing and thinking about our time together, because I don't view my work as just in my region or the work I get paid for. The work I do is who I am, no matter where I am in the world. I care about people, and I want to fight poverty, and I want to do all the things that I do. I want to see young people succeed. I believe in education. I want to do all those things, whether I'm working or not. And so the story that resonated with me, that was in my spirit this morning, was I was recently in Ghana in December. I was in Ghana. So I spent 9 or 10 days in Ghana. And my takeaway about resilience, I learned so much about my ancestors. I learned so much about even the slave trade and history and what they're currently going through. And all I learned so much. The thing
Did
that
you go the door of no return?
I did. I sure did. Yeah, I got pictures and I did a video of it. I mean, it changed my life on so many levels from being there. So Tara, the story that probably resonates with me is the women of Ghana. The women of Ghana. Their story of resiliency. And what a lot of people don't know unless you're there and you see it and you can give context to it is how the women of Ghana really drive the economy of Ghana, whether it's through agriculture, whether it's through the marketplace, whether it's through, I mean, they are the silent architects of the economy in Ghana. And so they are
maybe Gregory everywhere. I mean,
everywhere for sure.
Not to speak girl power, but you know,
Yes.
you kind of, if you teach a woman, you teach a
Yes.
community, right?
Yes,
You?
100%.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, 100%. But I think for me to see it in a different context was really important. So whether you saw them, you know, they call them the queens of the marketplace. So if you ever been to Ghana or some places in Africa, and you go to the market, most of the people that you see who are running the market are women. I mean, they are the driving force. Whether it's agriculture, whether it's entrepreneurship. We went on the University of Ghana, and to see some of the women who are deeply rooted in STEM programs. For me, it just resonated with me in such a powerful way. And yes, I do agree that no matter where you go, and in my experience, that's always been part of my community. But to really see it in Ghana, was I frozen?
Yes, you said to see it in Ghana, it really.
It really resonated with me.
Yeah.
And our guide even said, he made a joke. He said, if a woman in Ghana tells you she has no money, she's lying. Because they are really the driving force of the economy, whether it's through entrepreneurship. And so for me, being able to see them participate at that level in the economy, and see them really be the driving force from farmlands to boardrooms, that for me, they really embody resilience, innovation, and leadership in a way that it was great to see in another country. And so are there other stories locally of the work that we've done here at Community Action Partnership. We have 1,000 stories, but I think the one that, as I was preparing and thinking about it, was so fresh to me was seeing there's poverty in Ghana, 100%. There's wealth in Ghana as well. There's all those things, but to really see the economy being driven by the women of Ghana and show that resiliency was really powerful.
Yeah. Well, in the since you talked about your faith and growing up in the church, I have one last question and then I'll kind of have some commentary. But I feel like, as someone who also grew up in church, there's always some call to action at the end. And so I'm wondering if you could share with our employees what you believe their call to action could be. There's so many places that there's so many ways to be able to impact your community that sometimes you're almost immobilized because you don't know where to go. Like it's almost too much to be able to
Yeah.
sift through and figure out how your skills can be of use. My assumption is that you have volunteers that are there. Why do people come to you? Why should our employees think about giving to nonprofits? What would you like, if I could ask you what you think our employees' call to action should be after hearing, what would you suggest for them?
Yeah, great question. I obviously I have a bias towards Community Action Partnership. I lead with that bias, and the reason why I lead with that bias, and you have to go through the same lens with any organization or anything that you are investing in, that the rate of return on your time and your treasure, you have to go through a process of saying, what is the rate of return on my time and my treasure? And so when I'm talking to people who want to donate or partner with us, I'm also giving them social impact, the impact that we have on the community, that your dollar is going towards this directly. And this is the impact that we're having. That is, it's not just the number of people that we're serving, it's a number of people who are getting the right outcomes, the successful outcomes. And so I always advise people, find organizations that are doing that and think about it from a rate of return, from a business perspective, from accountability. Those things are important. And we have volunteers who volunteer every day. They're in our food bank right now, volunteering every single day. We have another number of donors that we are trying to increase from that perspective. And then the advocacy will be the third thing I say that's really important. It goes right along, it's in alignment with your theme for this year, because we also need systematic change. And we need more than us, more than the nonprofit sector, who are advocating for systematic change as well. And so it's a rate of return. It's making sure your time and treasure is going towards the right organization, and that you're investing in the right organization to get the right rate of return. And then I would say advocacy is really important.
Yeah.
If I can also end it with a short story. When I was in Ghana, I asked the same question: What makes you so resilient? Because the time we were there was the same time that they were doing their presidential election. So we heard a lot, saw a lot. And once he gave me his story, or his answer about what makes him so resilient, at the end of the day, he said, in Ghana, we have a saying, and our saying in Ghana is, leave it to God. And so once we've done all that we can do, at the end of the day, we're going to leave it to God. And so if I was to, drop that last piece on you, it would be that let's do our work. Let's do our work. Let's advocate. Let's volunteer. Let's invest. Let's collaborate. Let's come together. Let's have allyship. Let's do all those things. And then at the end of the day, once we've done all that we can do, we're going to leave it to God.
Well, so a few things I want to kind of pull out of what you said. Number one, I want to remind our employees that we just launched an online version of our matching gifts form, which I've heard really great feedback about. So whether it's to the Community Action Partnership or any other organization that speaks to your heart, that you've looked and see that their results are in line with what you want it to be, please, I encourage you to use our new website to donate, and we'll remind you of that again when we do the cover letter. I leave it to God. It's not kind of the same. This morning I was on the train on my way in. I live in New Jersey, and the New Jersey Transit was 45 minutes sitting in the tunnel, so I missed my first meeting. And I said to a friend of mine, I have learned over the years that I can't control the circumstances, but I can only control my reaction to the circumstances. And that it was a moment of moment of clarity to me that I have to get to every so often in New Jersey Transit, because that happens more than it does. So with that, I know I kind of and you know this already, but I know you obviously can't control all the circumstances around you, or you can do your best to control the circumstances around you. But I wish you success in how you're able to navigate through your circumstances to continue to keep at the forefront the communities that you're trying to serve. So I leave you that. And lastly, I guess, or maybe last two things. One, we do these sessions, and we've had multiple people speak. And like I said at the beginning, this year's focus was around, we've decided we're going to try our very best in partnership with our Chief Revenue Office to find clients to spotlight, because this is the work that we do. And it just so happens that many of our clients are doing work that aligns with the recognized Heritage and Awareness Month. So it kind of happens to be a nice dovetail into being able to give insight into the work that we do and who we're doing it for. We selected you to speak for Black History. We could have selected you to speak for a bunch of different things. And probably even more so, we could have just, as you were talking, I was realizing that actually, while this is under the banner of Black History, it allows us to be able to kind of wrap it up neatly in a package. Really, this is under the banner of leadership. And so I thank you for giving to us the jewels of your ethos as a leader. I thank you for giving us something to think about as we watch the news. And I thank you for reminding us that each of us can make a difference in the lives of others via the organizations who, you know, in the end, if it wasn't for you all, we wouldn't have jobs, right? If you weren't a client of ours, we would have one less client. And so all of these things, I think, are wonderfully wrapped in the series that we're doing. And so I know that you had I know you've had a busy few months, stressful few months, and a very busy week and day. And so I just want to thank you for giving of your time, your energy, and your spirit to us today. It's really, really very much appreciated.
My pleasure. And again, I just want to thank you all for thinking of me. It's been a pleasure getting to know you all. Pleasure kind of going through this process. And I knew this conversation would be magical with you, Tara. And so it exceeded my expectation, because you are an incredible leader. So thank you for your spirit and giving to me. I walk away inspired. So thank you.
Wonderful. Well, I see all the hearts going. I think Lawrence will probably cue to the music if he can. I see hearts and claps. So with that, I will bid you adieu. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your week. Talk soon.
Okay.
Bye-bye.